Jack Morrison stood in the center of the room, completely calm while surrounded by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. The silence was so complete that the hum of the space station systems seemed loud. Every alien delegate waited to hear what this human would say next. "Let me tell you what I have learned about each of your species," Jack began. His voice was steady and clear, like a teacher explaining a simple lesson. "I will start with the Zephyrians." Kethmer's crystal skin flickered with nervous light. "We have nothing to hide from a primitive species like yours." "The Zephyrians," Jack said, looking directly at the crystal-skinned delegate, "are the greatest mathematicians and scientists in the galaxy. Your minds work like perfect computers. You can solve any problem that has a clear answer." The Zephyrians looked pleased with this description. "But," Jack continued, "your mathematical perfection has created a fatal flaw. You cannot handle problems that have no clear solution. When faced with a paradox, or an equation that cannot be solved, or a situation with incomplete information, your minds freeze." Kethmer's skin went completely white. "That is not true. We are the most logical beings in existence." "Exactly," Jack said. "You are so logical that you cannot function when logic is not enough. During your war with the plasma wraiths 300 years ago, you lost because they used random, chaotic tactics. Your computers could not predict what they would do next, because their actions made no logical sense." The Zephyrian delegation began to whisper among themselves in their musical language. Jack's words were bringing back bad memories. "Your greatest strength is your need for logical answers," Jack explained. "But that same need makes you helpless when there are no logical answers to find. You cannot act when you cannot calculate the perfect response." Jack turned to the Korthan section. General Vraketon bared his teeth in a threatening growl, but the human did not seem afraid. "The Korthan Empire," Jack said, "has the strongest military in the galaxy. Your warriors are perfectly trained, your commanders are skilled, and your hierarchy is flawless. Every soldier knows their place and follows orders without question." The Korthans puffed up with pride. "But," Jack continued, "that perfect hierarchy is also your weakness. Korthan warriors cannot think for themselves. They wait for orders from their superiors. If you cut off their communication or confuse their chain of command, they become paralyzed." General Vraketon's claws scraped against his throne. "Our discipline is our strength, not our weakness." "Your discipline is incredible," Jack agreed, "but it has cost you the ability to adapt." During the siege of Valen Prime, a single human ship defeated an entire Korthan fleet by jamming their communications. Once your warriors could not receive orders, they did not know what to do. The general's eyes burned with anger. That defeat had been a humiliating secret that the Korthans thought no one else knew about. "Your strength is following orders perfectly," Jack said. "But that means you are helpless when there are no orders to follow. You have trained your warriors to be perfect soldiers, but you have forgotten to teach them to be independent thinkers." Jack moved to face the Valari section. Queen-voiced Zyke's antennae twitched nervously. "The Valari work as one perfect mind," Jack said. "Your coordination is flawless. You can accomplish tasks that would be impossible for any other species, because you think and act as one." The Valari buzzed with satisfaction. "But," Jack said, "that unity is also your greatest vulnerability. The Valari hive mind is like a single giant brain. If that brain is damaged, the entire species suffers." Zyke's clicking became rapid and agitated. "The hive mind cannot be damaged. We are one. 7 years ago, a solar storm disrupted your psychic network for 3 hours," Jack stated. "During that time, Valari across 12 systems could not function. They stood frozen, unable to decide what to do without the hive mind's guidance." The Valari section fell silent. They remembered that terrible time when they had been alone in their own heads. Your strength is thinking as one, Jack explained. But that means you cannot think as individuals. When the connection is broken, you become like children who have lost their parents. Jack turned to the Axion Collective. Speaker Unit 779's mechanical eyes focused on the human with new wariness. The Axion Collective has overcome the limitations of biological life, Jack said. You are stronger, smarter, and more durable than any natural being. Your cybernetic enhancements make you nearly perfect. The Axion's electronic systems hummed with approval. But, Jack continued, your perfection has made you rigid. You cannot adapt to unexpected problems because your systems are designed to handle only specific situations. You have traded flexibility for efficiency. Our systems are highly advanced, 779 protested. We can handle any situation. Can you? Jack asked. What happens when your central processing network is hit with a logic bomb? What happens when your shared databases are corrupted? What happens when your power systems are overloaded? The Axion's humming became irregular. These were scenarios they had not fully considered. Your strength is technological perfection, Jack said. But perfection cannot handle imperfection. When something goes wrong in a way you did not expect, your systems cannot compensate because they were never designed to be imperfect. Jack walked to the Nerian tanks. Ambassador Depth-Singer Coral High swam to the front, her scales showing deep concern. The Nerians have achieved perfect harmony with their aquatic worlds, Jack said. You understand water, ocean currents, and marine life better than any other species. Your underwater cities are works of art. The Nerian scales brightened with pride. But, Jack said, your perfect adaptation to water has made you unable to survive anywhere else. Nerians can only live on worlds with large oceans. You cannot colonize desert planets, gas giants, or airless moons. Coral High's scales turned pale. We choose to live in harmony with water. It is our strength. It is indeed, Jack agreed. But it is also your limitation. The galaxy has thousands of worlds without oceans. Your perfect adaptation to water has locked you out of most of the universe. Jack faced the lumens. Bright Thought Nova pulsed with nervous energy. The lumens have transcended physical form, Jack said. You are beings of pure energy who can travel at light speed and exist in the hearts of stars. You have achieved a form of immortality that other species can only dream of. The lumens glowed brighter with satisfaction. But, Jack continued, your energy forms are vulnerable to electromagnetic interference. The right frequency can disrupt your consciousness. Gravity wells can trap you. Certain types of radiation can actually damage your energy matrices. Nova's light flickered with worry. We are beyond such crude limitations. Are you? Jack asked. What happens when you encounter a pulsar's magnetic field? What happens when you try to exist near a black hole? What happens when someone generates a broad-spectrum electromagnetic pulse? The lumen's light dimmed as they realized the human knew about vulnerabilities they thought were secret. Your strength is being pure energy, Jack said. But that means you are vulnerable to anything that can manipulate energy. You gave up the protection of matter, and now you must deal with the dangers that only energy faces. Jack looked at the Terran builders. Elder Stoneheart Granity waited with the patience of mountains. The Terran builders create structures that last for millions of years, Jack said. Your cities are carved from living rock. Your monuments will stand long after other civilizations have fallen to dust. The builders rumbled with deep satisfaction. But, Jack said, your focus on permanence has made you unable to adapt to change. You take centuries to make decisions. You cannot respond quickly to threats or opportunities. Granideep's voice was like stones grinding together. We think in long terms, not short ones. Yes, you do, Jack agreed. But sometimes the galaxy moves too fast for long-term thinking. While you spend decades planning the perfect response to a crisis, other species have already solved the problem and moved on. Finally, Jack turned to the psionic ethereals. Mind-touched Whisper Soul opened her pale eyes and stared at the human. The psionic ethereals can read minds, move objects with thought, and communicate across vast distances without technology. Jack said, "Your mental abilities are beyond anything other species can achieve." The ethereal's eyes glowed with psychic energy. "But," Jack said, "your dependence on psychic abilities has made you vulnerable to mental interference. Psychic dampening fields can cut you off from your powers. Certain types of mental static can overwhelm your sensitive minds." Whisper Soul's voice echoed in everyone's head. "You cannot understand the power of the mind." "I understand it better than you think," Jack replied. "I know that your psychic abilities require concentration and focus. I know that strong emotions can disrupt your mental control. I know that certain frequencies can cause you physical pain." The ethereal's glow dimmed as they realized this human had studied their weaknesses very carefully. "Your strength is the power of the mind," Jack said. "But that means you are vulnerable to anything that can attack the mind. You have developed incredible mental abilities, but you have also created incredible mental vulnerabilities." Jack walked back to the center of the room. Every alien in the chamber was staring at him with new understanding. This human diplomat had not just studied. The silence in the great chamber stretched on for what felt like hours. Every alien delegate stared at Jack Morrison with new eyes. The human who had seemed so small and weak at the beginning of the meeting now stood before them as something entirely different. The chairman was the first to break the silence. "Ambassador Morrison, you have presented a most unusual argument. You claim that humanity's weaknesses are actually strengths. Please elaborate on this concept." Jack nodded respectfully. To the robotic mediator, "Thank you, Chairman. What I am saying is simple. Every species in this room has achieved greatness by perfecting one particular ability. But that perfection has also created limitations." He gestured to the screen, which now showed a complex diagram of interconnected systems. "Humans have achieved something different. We have become excellent at being average. We are good enough at everything to work with anyone." Kethmer's crystal skin flickered with confusion. How can being average be superior to being perfect? "Because," Jack explained, "perfection only works in perfect conditions. When conditions change, perfection becomes a handicap. But being adaptable works in any condition." To demonstrate his point, Jack activated a new display. It showed human colonies throughout the galaxy, each one thriving in different environments by using different approaches. On the water world of Aquatica Prime, humans work alongside Nerian advisors, Jack said. "We learned your techniques for underwater construction and ocean farming. But we also brought our own innovations in air-breathing technology and surface platforms." Ambassador Depth Singer Coral High swam closer to the front of her tank. Her scales showed interested blue patterns instead of the angry red from before. "Together," Jack continued, "humans and Nerians have created colonies that work both above and below the water. Neither species could have achieved this alone." The screen changed to show a desert world. On the mineral-rich planet of Stone Haven, humans work with Terran builder supervisors. "We learned your methods for working with living rock and creating permanent structures." Elder Stone Heart Granity rumbled with what might have been approval. "Your constructions are still temporary compared to ours." "Yes, they are," Jack agreed. "But they are also flexible. When we need to expand or modify our cities, we can do so in months instead of centuries. Your permanent structures anchor our colonies, while our temporary additions allow for growth and change." The examples continued. "On high-energy worlds, Humans worked with Lumen consultants to harness stellar radiation. On coordinated industrial planets, they learned from Velari efficiency experts. On technological research stations, they partnered with Axion scientists. Each partnership teaches us something new, Jack explained. But more importantly, each partnership creates something that neither species could achieve alone. General, Vraketon shifted uncomfortably on his throne. You speak of cooperation, but you have also demonstrated that you know how to exploit our weaknesses. How do we know you will not use this knowledge against us? Jack turned to face the massive Corthan. General, because using it against you would be counterproductive. Why would we want to weaken potential partners? Partners? Queen Voice Zyke's clicking showed surprise. You consider us partners despite our accusations against your species? Of course, Jack said. Your accusations were accurate. Humans are emotional, chaotic, technologically primitive, and short-lived. But those same traits make us excellent partners for species like yours. He walked closer to the Velari section. Your perfect coordination is incredible, but it makes you vulnerable to disruption. Human chaos actually helps protect you because we can keep functioning even when coordination breaks down. The Velari buzzed with interest. They had never considered that chaos might be useful. Your mathematical perfection is remarkable, Jack said to the Zephyrians, but it makes you freeze when faced with unsolvable problems. Human emotional responses help us make decisions even when we do not have complete information. Kethmer's skin showed thoughtful purple patterns. You are suggesting that our weaknesses and your weaknesses balance each other out. Exactly, Jack confirmed. When Zephyrians and humans work together, your logic guides our intuition, and our flexibility helps you adapt to imperfect situations. Speaker. Unit 779's mechanical voice cut through the discussion. This is an interesting theory, but what evidence do you have that such cooperation would be beneficial? Jack smiled and activated a new display. I am glad you asked. For the past 6 months, we have been running a secret experiment. The screen showed a space station under construction. It was unlike anything any single species had ever built. The design incorporated elements from every major civilization in the galaxy. This is Deep Space Station Unity, Jack announced. It is being built by a joint task force of humans and representatives from every species in this room. The alien delegates stared at the image in amazement. The station was massive, beautiful, and clearly functional. It had Zephyrian mathematical precision, Horthan defensive systems, Velari coordination centers, Axion technological cores, Nerian aquatic sections, Lumen energy collectors, Terran builder permanent structures, and ethereal psychic communication. Arrays, the station is nearly complete, Jack continued. It has taken 6 months to build something that would have taken any single species years to accomplish. More importantly, it works better than anything any of us could have built alone. Ambassador. Depth Singer Coralhigh's scales showed excited golden patterns. The aquatic sections allow for long-term Nerian habitation in space. We have never been able to build permanent space habitats before, and the human flexible construction methods allowed us to modify the design as we learned, added Elder Stoneheart Grenady. We built it in stages, improving each section based on what we learned from the previous ones. The other delegates began to murmur among themselves. The evidence was right in front of them. Cooperation with humans had allowed each species to overcome their individual limitations. But how do we know this is not a trap? General Vraketon asked suspiciously. How do we know you will not use our combined strengths against us? Jack Morrison looked directly at the Corthan general. Because, General, that would be the most wasteful thing we could possibly do. Why would we want to destroy the very partnerships that make us stronger? He gestured to the display showing human colonies. Look at what we have accomplished together in just 3 years. Human colonies are more successful than they would have been alone, and your species have gained access to new worlds and new possibilities. The chairman processed all this information. Ambassador Morrison, you are proposing a fundamental change in how galactic civilization operates. Instead of competition between species, you suggest cooperation. I am proposing that we recognize what is already happening, Jack replied. Humans are already working with every species in this room. We are already learning from each other. I am simply suggesting that we make this cooperation official. Mind-touched Whisper Sewell's voice echoed in everyone's head. What exactly are you proposing? Jack took a deep breath. This was the moment he had been preparing for since his first day as Earth's ambassador. I propose that we create a new kind of galactic community, he said. Not one based on dominance or competition, but one based on mutual benefit and cooperation. Each species contributes what they do best, and together we achieve things none of us could accomplish alone. The room erupted in discussion. Alien voices mixed together in a dozen different languages as the delegates debated among themselves. The chairman called for order. The proposal is interesting, but how would such a system work in practice? It is already working, Jack said. Deep Space Station Unity is just the beginning. We have joint research projects, shared colonies, and cooperative trade agreements. The infrastructure is already in place. He looked around the room at each delegation. The question is not whether this cooperation will happen. It is already happening. The question is whether we will guide it wisely or let it develop without direction. Kethmer stood up, his crystal skin showing calm blue patterns. The Zephyrians have seen the mathematical models for this cooperation. The efficiency gains are significant. General Vraktin rose slowly. The Korthan Empire has observed human adaptability in joint military exercises. Their chaos makes them unpredictable allies, but also unpredictable enemies. One by one, the other delegates began to voice their support. The Velari saw the benefits of human flexibility. The Axians appreciated human innovation. The Nerians valued human adaptability. The Lumens respected human curiosity. The chairman tallied the responses. It appears that the majority of council members are willing to explore this new form of cooperation. Jack Morrison felt a wave of relief wash over him. 3 years of careful preparation had led to this moment. There is one more thing, Jack sighed. This cooperation must be based on mutual respect and understanding. We must acknowledge both our strengths and our weaknesses. We must be honest about what we can and cannot do. He looked directly at each delegation. Humans bring adaptability, creativity, and the ability to work with anyone. But we also bring chaos, emotion, and imperfection. We offer these traits openly, with the understanding that they will be balanced by your own strengths. The voting was swift and now. Jack Morrison walked to the center of the room. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. Every alien eye, sensor, and mind focused on the human diplomat. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. 3 years ago, when humanity first joined this council, I was given a simple mission, Jack began. His voice was calm, but carried clearly to every corner of the massive chamber. I was told to learn about our new neighbors, to understand who you are, how you think, and what you value. He gestured to his tablet, and the main screen changed. Now it showed detailed files on each species. The information looked like standard diplomatic reports, but there was something different about them, something more complete. I have spent every day since then studying your histories, your cultures, your technologies, and your ways of thinking. I have read your literature, watched your entertainment, and learned your languages. I have tried to understand not just what you do, but why you do it. Lisa Barnes watched the alien delegates shift uncomfortably. She had worked with Jack for 5 years, and she recognized this tone. He used it when he was about to deliver news that would change everything. What I discovered, Jack continued, is that each of your species has achieved incredible things by focusing on your natural strengths. You have become the best at what you do because you have dedicated everything to perfecting those abilities. Cathmer's crystal skin flickered with confusion. Of course, we have perfected our abilities. That is what intelligent beings do. We do not waste time on things we are bad at. Exactly, Jack said, and his smile returned. You do not waste time on things you are bad at. You focus only on your strengths. And that focus has made you powerful. The Zephyrian delegate looked pleased. Finally, this human seemed to understand their superiority. But, Jack said, and that one word made the entire room tense, that same focus has also created something else. Something you may not have noticed. The screen changed again. Now it showed complex analysis charts and behavioral patterns. The data was incredibly detailed, more precise than anything the aliens had expected humans to be capable of producing. Your specialization has created predictable patterns in how you think and act, Jack explained. When you become perfect at one thing, you become dependent on that thing. When you focus all your energy on your greatest strength, you lose the ability to adapt when that strength is not enough. General Vrektan stood up with a roar. You dare to lecture us about strength? We have conquered entire systems while your people were still hitting rocks together. And that is exactly what I mean, Jack replied without flinching. Your strength has made you think that every problem can be solved with force. You cannot imagine any other way. The Korthan general's eyes burned with rage, but he did not attack. Something in the human's confident tone made him hesitate. Let me show you what I mean, Jack said. He touched his tablet, and the screen displayed a historical analysis of Korthan military campaigns. In the last 1,000 years, the Korthan Empire has won every major war. Your tactics are perfect, your warriors are unstoppable, and your technology is superior. The Korthans looked proud of this summary of their achievements. But, Jack continued, you have also lost 3 minor conflicts against much weaker opponents. Each time, you lost because the enemy did not fight the way you expected. They used tactics that your perfect military doctrine could not handle. The pride faded from the Korthan faces. Those 3 defeats were embarrassing memories they preferred not to discuss. Your strength became your weakness, Jack explained. You were so focused on being the best warriors that you forgot how to adapt when the enemy refused to fight like warriors. Queen Voice Zyth Anseni twitched rapidly. You think you understand the Velari? We are one mind, one people, one perfect unity. We do not have the weaknesses of individuals. Your unity is indeed impressive, Jack agreed. But I have studied what happens when that unity is disrupted. There have been 17 incidents in Velari history where communication breakdowns occurred. Natural disasters, solar storms, equipment failures. The Velari section buzzed with nervous energy. They did not like remembering those times. Each time your people became completely helpless, Jack continued. Individual Velari cannot make decisions without the hive mind. When the connection is broken, they freeze. They cannot act, cannot think, cannot even move effectively. Those were rare accidents, Zyth clicked defensively. Yes, they were, Jack nodded. But they showed that your greatest strength is also your greatest vulnerability. Your unity makes you powerful, but it also makes you fragile. Speaker Unit 779's mechanical voice filled the room. Biological weaknesses do not apply. To us, we are beyond such limitations. The Axion Collective has indeed overcome many biological problems, Jack acknowledged. Your cybernetic enhancements make you stronger, smarter, and more durable than any natural being. The Axions hummed with electronic satisfaction. But, Jack said, you have also created new vulnerabilities. Your dependence on technology means that the right kind of electromagnetic interference can disable your entire civilization. Your shared network makes you vulnerable to viral attacks. Your perfection makes you unable to adapt to unexpected problems. The humming stopped. The Axians had not expected this human to understand their potential weaknesses. You replaced your biological adaptability with technological perfection, Jack explained. But perfection cannot handle imperfection. When something goes wrong in a way you did not expect, your systems cannot compensate. Ambassador Depth Singer Coral High swam agitatedly in her tank. The Nerians have no such weaknesses. We live in harmony with our worlds. We do not fight nature, we work with it. Your harmony with water worlds is beautiful, Jack said genuinely. But it has also made you completely dependent on aquatic environments. Nerians can survive on land for only a few hours. You cannot function in dry climates, high altitudes, or airless space without extensive life support. The Nerian scales turned pale with worry. Your perfect adaptation to water has made you unable to adapt to anything else, Jack continued. You are the masters of 70% of most worlds, but the other 30% might as well be alien to you. Bright Thought Nova pulsed with agitated light. We are beyond physical limitations. We are pure energy, pure thought. Yes, you are, Jack agreed. And that transformation has given you incredible abilities. But it has also made you vulnerable to energy-dampening fields, electromagnetic barriers, and gravitational anomalies. Your freedom from matter has made you dependent on the specific conditions that allow energy to exist freely. The lumen's light flickered with uncertainty. Each of you, Jack said, looking around the room, has achieved something remarkable. You have become the best at what you do. But in becoming the best, you have also become limited. You have traded adaptability for perfection. Elder Stoneheart Granity spoke in his slow, deep voice. And what of humans? What is your weakness, Diplomat? Jack Morrison smiled, and this time it was a genuine, warm expression. Our weakness is that we are not perfect at anything. We are not the strongest, or the smartest, or the most unified, or the most technological. We are not the most spiritual, or the most harmonious, or the most advanced. The aliens looked confused. Was this human actually admitting that humans were inferior? But, Jack said, our imperfection is also our strength. Because we are not perfect at any one thing, we can adapt to any situation. Because we are not dependent on any single strength, we can find new ways to solve problems. He gestured to the screen, which now showed human colonies on dozens of different worlds. Humans have spread across the galaxy, not because we are the best at anything, but because we can learn to be good enough at everything. The room was completely silent now. The aliens were beginning to understand that this human diplomat had not come to beg for mercy. He had come to teach them something about themselves that they had never realized. You have spent this meeting telling me about your superiority, Jack said quietly. But I have spent 3 years learning about your limitations. And now I am going to tell you exactly what those limitations are. Lisa Barnes felt a chill run down her spine. She suddenly understood what her boss had been preparing for all these years. This was not just a diplomatic meeting. This was a demonstration of power unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Jack Morrison, the simple human diplomat, was about to show 12 advanced alien civilizations that their greatest strengths were also their greatest weaknesses. And he was going to do it with nothing but words and knowledge. The real diplomacy was about to begin. The room grew tense as Jack Morrison's words hung in the air. The alien delegates looked at each other with confusion and worry. What did this human know that they did not? Kethmer, the Zephyrian delegate, stood up again. His crystal skin flashed with angry red light. You speak of our weaknesses? We have led the galaxy in mathematics and science for 10,000 years. We have solved problems that would break your primitive minds. Your people barely understand basic physics, added Dr. Veltar, another Zephyrian scientist. You use crude rockets while we bend space itself to travel between stars. You count with your fingers while we calculate the movement of entire galaxies. The Zephyrians activated their holographic displays. Complex equations filled the air above their section. The mathematics was so advanced that the translation machines could not even convert it into human terms. Numbers and symbols danced in patterns that hurt to look at. General Vrektan slammed his massive fist on his throne. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. Enough of this talk about thinking and numbers. The Korthan Empire rules. Through strength, we have never lost a war. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Our warriors are bred for battle, growled Commander Hexmar, the general's second in command. We are bigger, stronger, and faster than humans. Our claws can tear through metal. Our scales stop bullets. Your soldiers are soft meat that we could crush with one hand. The Korthans showed videos of their armies. Millions of reptilian warriors marched in perfect formation. Their weapons could destroy entire cities. Their ships were built like flying. Fortresses covered in armor and guns. Queen Voice Zyke's antennae twitched faster. Individual strength means nothing without coordination. The Veleri move as one mind. We think as one people. We act with perfect unity. When we build, 10,000 workers move in perfect harmony, buzzed hive mind Tikmur. When we fight, our armies never need to communicate because we share the same thoughts. Your people argue and disagree about everything. You cannot even agree on what to eat for dinner. The Valari section came alive with activity. Hundreds of insect-like beings moved together like a living machine. They built a complex structure in minutes, each worker knowing exactly what to do without being told. Speaker Unit 779's mechanical voice cut through the noise. Biological coordination is inefficient. The Axion Collective has replaced our weak flesh with perfect technology. We do not age, we do not get sick, we do not feel pain or fear. Our minds are connected to the greatest computers in the galaxy. Added Processing Unit 342. We can think 1,000,000 thoughts at once. We can calculate faster than any biological brain. We have become perfect beings. The Axions displayed their technological mastery. Their bodies were marvels of engineering, with mechanical parts that worked better than any natural organ. They could survive in space, live forever, and process information at incredible speeds. Ambassador Depthsinger Coral High swam to the front of her tank. Her scales turned deep blue with emotion. Technology without wisdom is dangerous. The Nerians have lived in perfect harmony with our worlds for 50,000 years. We understand the flow of life through water, the songs of the deep currents. Your people poison every world they touch, gurgled Deep Current Macway. You drain the oceans, kill the fish, and fill the water with chemicals. You do not understand that all life comes from the sea. The Nerians showed images of their beautiful underwater cities. Coral buildings grew like living things, and fish swam freely through the streets. Everything was in perfect balance with nature. Bright Thought Nova pulsed with golden light. Matter and flesh are illusions. The lumens have transcended physical form. We are pure energy, pure thought, pure light. We can travel at the speed of light itself. We can exist in the hearts of stars. Your people are trapped in heavy bodies, flashed Starfire Quantum. You cannot fly between worlds without machines. You cannot think without using slow chemical brains. You are prisoners of your own flesh. The lumens demonstrated their power by briefly becoming one giant being of light. They pulsed with energy that made the entire room glow. Then they separated again, showing they could be many or one as they chose. Elder Stoneheart Granity spoke in his slow, deep voice. All of you move too fast. The Terran builders have created structures that last for millions of years. Our cities are carved from living rock. Our monuments will stand when your species are dust. Humans build with metal and plastic, rumbled Naughton Voice Slabron. Your cities crumble in centuries. Your greatest works are temporary scratches on the surface of worlds. You are mayflies who build houses of straw. The Terran builders showed their ancient cities. Massive stone structures rose from the ground. Like mountains, they had stood for so long that some had their own weather systems. Mind-touched Whispersoul finally opened her pale eyes. When she spoke, her voice seemed to come from inside everyone's head. Physical things do not matter. The psionic ethereals can read minds, move objects with thought, and speak across infinite distances without machines. Your people's minds are closed books. Thought spoke Dreamwalker Voidless. You cannot hear the thoughts of others. You cannot touch minds across space. You are alone in your heads, cut off from the universe of thought. The psionic ethereals demonstrated by lifting objects around the room with their minds. They made the lights flicker and caused the air itself to hum with psychic energy. Other species added their voices to the chorus of criticism. The plasma. Wraiths mocked human physical forms. The Void Walkers laughed at humanity's fear of empty space. The Crystal Singers claimed humans could not even hear true music. Each species presented proof of their superiority. The evidence was overwhelming. Humans were weaker, slower, less intelligent, shorter-lived, and less advanced than every other species in the galaxy. Jack Morrison listened to it all with the same calm expression. He continued taking notes, nodding occasionally, as if he agreed with everything they said. Lisa Barnes wondered if her boss had a plan, or if he was just letting them destroy humanity's reputation completely. The chairman waited until all species had finished speaking. Does any delegation wish to add further testimony about human inferiority? No one else stood up. The case against humanity seemed complete. Ambassador Morrison, the chairman said, you have heard the evidence against your species. The Council finds that humans are indeed primitive, chaotic, weak, and unsuited for galactic civilization. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Jack Morrison stood up slowly. He looked around the room at all the alien faces staring at him. Some looked angry, others seemed sad, and a few appeared curious about what he would say. I have listened carefully to everything you have said, Jack began, and I want to thank you all for being so honest about your abilities and achievements. The aliens looked confused again. Was this human actually thanking them for insulting his entire species? You are absolutely correct, Jack continued. Humans are primitive, chaotic, weak, and short-lived compared to your great civilizations. We cannot deny these facts. A satisfied murmur ran through the room. Finally, the human was admitting the truth. But, Jack said, and his voice grew stronger, I have spent 3 years studying each of your species very carefully, and I have discovered something that I think you will find very interesting. He touched his tablet again. New information appeared on the main screen. I have learned that the very traits that make each of you superior also create very specific vulnerabilities. Your greatest strengths have created your greatest weaknesses. The room fell silent again. This time, the silence felt different. It felt dangerous. Jack Morrison smiled, and for the first time, it was not a friendly smile. The huge room was filled with strange beings from across the galaxy. Ambassador Jack Morrison sat at the small human table, looking calm while alien voices grew louder around him. The space station called Nexus Prime held the most important meeting. In human history, Jack had been Earth's top diplomat for 15 years. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes that missed nothing. Today, those eyes watched 12 different alien species as they prepared to judge humanity. His aide, Lieutenant Commander Lisa Barnes, sat beside him. She was younger, with short brown hair and a worried look on her face. The meeting room was enormous. It stretched up so high that the ceiling disappeared into darkness. Each alien species had their own section, designed to meet their needs. Zephyrians sat in crystal chairs that glowed with soft blue light. These tall, thin beings had skin that looked like living glass. They thought they were the smartest creatures in the galaxy. Across from them, the Korthan Empire took up a huge area. These reptile-like warriors were twice the size of humans. Their scales were dark green and black, and their eyes burned red. General Vrekton sat on a throne made of metal and bone. His claws tapped against the armrest as he stared at the humans with hatred. The Valari section buzzed with activity. These insect-like beings moved as one mind. They had 4 arms each and faces that looked like praying mantises. Queen Voice Zixth spoke for all of them. Her voice made a clicking sound that the translation machines turned into words. Near the center sat the Axion Collective. These beings were half machine, half living creature. Wires and metal parts stuck out of their bodies. Their leader, Speaker Unit 779, had replaced most of his original body with technology. His voice sounded like a computer speaking. The Nerians floated in large tanks of blue water. These fish-like beings had scales that changed color when they felt strong emotions. Ambassador Depth-Singer Coral Hai swam back and forth in her tank, her fins moving in patterns that showed her anger. The lumens were the strangest of all. They were beings made of pure energy, looking like bright, moving lights. Their representative, Bright Thought Nova, pulsed with yellow and orange colors. The lights hurt to look at directly. The Terran builders sat very still. These rock-like beings hardly moved at all. Elder Stoneheart Granity looked like a mountain carved into the shape of a person. When he spoke, his voice was deep and slow like stones grinding together. The psionic ethereals floated above their seats. These pale, thin beings had huge heads and no hair. Mind-touched Whisper Soul kept her eyes closed. She could read thoughts and speak directly into minds, which made many other species uncomfortable. There were others, too. The plasma wraiths flickered in and out of sight. The Void Walkers wore suits that hid their true forms. The Crystal Singers hummed with musical voices that made the air itself vibrate. In the center of the room stood the chairman, a tall robot with a calm voice. It was built by all the species working together, so it could be fair to everyone. The chairman's blue eyes looked at each group before speaking. This meeting of the Galactic Council is now in session, the chairman announced. Today we discuss the human expansion into our galaxy. Jack Morrison had known this day would come. For 3 years, humans had been building colonies on new worlds. They moved fast and adapted to any environment. This scared the older species who had taken centuries to spread across space. The Zephyrian delegate, Kethmer, stood first. His crystal skin flashed with bright light as he spoke. The humans reproduce too quickly. They build cities in months, not years. They change the worlds they touch. They are weak, General Vrekton growled. His voice was like rocks falling down a mountain, yet they spread like a disease. They have no honor, no strength, no right to claim so many worlds. Queen Voice Zixth's antennae twitched. The humans cannot work together like we do. They argue and fight among themselves. How can such chaos be allowed to grow? Speaker Unit 779's mechanical voice cut through the air. Their technology is primitive. They still use chemical rockets and metal ships. They will contaminate. our advanced systems. Each species had complaints about humanity. The Nerians said humans polluted the water worlds. The Lumens claimed humans blocked the flow of cosmic energy. The Terran Builders, ACCUSED, humans of building temporary structures that would not last. Jack listened to each speaker without showing emotion. He took notes on a simple tablet, writing down their words. Lisa Barnes watched him work and wondered how he stayed so calm. The aliens were saying terrible things about their people. "They are savages," one delegate said. "They eat other living creatures," said another. "They wage war on their own kind," came a third accusation. The chairman turned to Jack. "Ambassador Morrison, do you wish to respond to these concerns?" Jack stood slowly. He was not as tall as the Zephyrians or as strong as the Corthans. He did not glow like the Lumens or think as one mind like the Valari. He was just a human man in a simple blue suit. "I thank the Council for this opportunity to speak," Jack said in a quiet voice. "I have listened carefully to your concerns about my people." The room fell silent. Every alien eye, sensor, and mind focused on the human ambassador. They expected him to beg for mercy or make excuses for human behavior. Instead, Jack smiled. "You are absolutely right about humans," he said. "We are emotional, chaotic, short-lived, and technologically primitive compared to your great civilizations." The aliens looked confused. Was this human giving up? Was he admitting that humans were inferior? "But," Jack continued, "in my years of studying each of your species, I have learned something very interesting about strength and weakness." He pressed a button on his tablet. The room's main screen came to life, showing star charts and species data. "May I share what I have discovered?" The chairman nodded. "You may proceed, Ambassador Morrison." Jack looked around the room at each species. His calm smile never wavered. Lisa Barnes realized that her boss was not giving up at all. He was just getting started. "I have spent 3 years learning everything about each of your civilizations," Jack said. "Your histories, your cultures, your ways of thinking. And I have found that your greatest strengths create your greatest weaknesses." A murmur ran through the room. The aliens began to shift uncomfortably in their seats, tanks, and floating positions. Jack Morrison, the simple human diplomat, was about to change everything.